Good afternoon. It's Tuesday, June 18. I'm Herman Green with your midday news. A special welcome if you're watching online at onespotmedia.com. The Caribbean Court of Justice has pronounced that Justice James Patterson was appointed as chairman of the Guyana Elections Committee through a flawed process and in breach of Article 161, subsection 2 of the Constitution of Guyana. Justice Patterson was appointed hastily by President David Granger after rejecting 3 lists submitted by opposition leader Barrett Jagdeo. Several of the justices concurred that Mr. Granger should have provided reasons for the rejection of 3 lists which contained 18 names.
He was of the view that deciding on the probity of the reasons given by the President as to why a person on the list was unacceptable to him was not a task that the courts ought necessarily to invite or be eager to undertake. He also found that the court should be slow to impose constructs which exert Lilliputian constraints on the policy discourse undertaken by the Republic's political giants unless and until such constructs and constraints cannot be constitutionally avoided, unquote. Having regard to the foregoing opinions and conclusions, the court intends to invite the parties to make submissions on the consequential orders that should be given by the court.
Meanwhile, the CCJ has ruled that the no-confidence motion against the coalition government was validly passed in the National Assembly on December 21, 2018. The CCJ rejected submissions made by the state. According to the CCJ, the Constitution of Guyana clearly states that the government must resign when it loses to a no-confidence motion. And back in Jamaica, pressure is mounting on the government for details on the completion of work on the Cornwall Regional Hospital in St. James. It comes as several timelines which were previously announced have not been met. Details from TVJ's O'Shane Masters.
The opposition is calling for a timeline to be given into the full resumption of services at the Cornwall Regional Hospital in St. James.
We have got numerous dates for the completion of the refurbishing of Cornwall Regional. All of them have been missed and we still have no date.
According to opposition leader Dr. Peter Phillips, there is a serious lack of services in a number of the island's health facilities.
Whether here or at Spanish Town or at Maypen, Savlamar is very, very below standard.
Dr. Phillips further bemoans the treatment being meted out to citizens on the western end of the island, as he says little to no care is being given.
People of Western Jamaica are being denied the full services that ought to be available at the Cornwall Regional Hospital. Many of these services are being outsourced, but it still cannot meet the demand. And patients are being forced to find out-of-pocket expenses that are beyond their capacities.
It's why he's calling on the government to provide a renewed timeline.
We really want to ask once and for all for us to be given a clear set of timelines which the people of Western Jamaica can rely on with respect to the rehabilitation of the Cornwall Regional Hospital and the provision of full services at the Cornwall Regional Hospital.
The renovation of the Cornwall Regional Hospital, CRH, is estimated at over $3 billion. O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
The Jamaica Public Service Company, JPSCO, has responded to claims from residents of Hamilton Gardens in Portmore St. Catherine that the company took too long to rectify an electrocution incident in the community on Sunday. 16-year-old Tyrese Winter was electrocuted while picking mangoes. The residents claim that JPS representatives did not address the situation until 3 hours later, which prevented the police and firefighters from doing anything. However, the JPS says that is not so. Speaking on RJR's 94 FM's Beyond the Headlines on Monday, JPS Regional Director Marvin Campbell said they got the first call at 11:11 a.m. and got to the location at 11:56 a.m. The line was de-energized by 12:08 p.m.
Receiving the first call, right, we responded and actually took action to de-energize the line. Crews had to be diverted to address this issue because teams would have been working on other power quality related calls. But once a call like this comes in, a crew will be diverted immediately.
Mr. Campbell explained that for this kind of incident, workers had to go to the location to disconnect the power. He says the response time of under an hour, not 3 hours as residents say, is acceptable. The residents have also called on the company to step up its tree cutting program. Mr. Campbell explained how that program works.
On private property, it's the responsibility of the residents to cut their trees. What we request is that they will cut the trees prior to the trees growing into the lines. However, once the trees are within close proximity to the lines, and typically we want to maintain a minimum of 10 to 12 feet of these trees from the lines, then they reach out to JPS for JPS to provide necessary support to get the trees cut. For trees, though, that are in the public thoroughfare, that's a direct JPS responsibility.
Supporters of People's National Party presidential hopeful Peter Bunting are blasting members of the party who have questioned the timing of Mr. Bunting's challenge for the top position in the party. The issue was a major talking point at a divisional conference in Landui, Western St. Thomas on the weekend.
Every member has a right, and every PMP should be ambitious to lead this great noble movement, comrades. So nothing is wrong with Comrade Bunting offering himself come September to rescue the People's National Party, because at the end of the day, none of us in here want to be on the losing side.
And a caution to delegates to pay attention to internal polls.
Comrades, right now, the leader of the National Party is showing at 12%. And when we look upon a Comrade Bunting, he must show a 47. Comrade, I know who I want to go in with. Comrades, one love, make we move forward.
And we now take a break here on the Midday News, but stay with us. More stories after these messages. Welcome back, continuing the Midday News. Crimes in St. Mary have been trending downwards for 2019. That's according to head of the St. Mary Police Division, Superintendent Gov't Morgan Simpson. She was speaking at the recent meeting of the St. Mary Municipal Corporation. Superintendent Morgan Simpson says so far this year, there have been 10 murders in the parish.
For the year 2019, there have been 10 incidents of murder in the parish. The attribution for those murders, 3 are domestic related, 1 in the case of robbery, 1 as a result of a conflict, and the others are non-specific.
That's down 50% compared to the corresponding period last year. Shootings and rapes in the parish have also trended downwards.
There have been 7, and last year we had 12 last year, so we're also down. Rapes, we have 5. Last year it was 11, so that is actually also down.
Superintendent Morgan Simpson says though these crimes are seeing a reduction, robberies continue to plague the parish. She says though persons have been willing to report the crimes, they are less willing to take it further. The body of 51-year-old Mason Barrington Ebanks of Mountainside in St. Elizabeth and Palmer's Cross, Clarendon, was found this morning. He was found with a single stab wound to the neck about 1:45 on the Mountainside Main Road. Mr. Ebanks was last seen approximately 1 o'clock this morning. No motive has been established for the murder. And we go down to news overseas. A tsunami warning has been issued after a magnitude 6.8 earthquake struck close to the coast of Japan. There were no reports of serious injuries, but the country's meteorological agency issued a warning for a 0.2 to 1 meter tsunami along the northwest coast of the main island of Honshu. The quake struck around 30 miles southwest of the city of Sakata at 10:22 p.m., with coastal areas including Yamagata receiving tsunami advisories. And we go down to news in sports as the Reggae Girls will play their final group game at the FIFA Women's World Cup against Australia today. And despite the odds already being stacked against them, the Jamaicans are insisting that they are going into the game holding on to the hopes of of advancing to the knockout phase. The game will kick off in Grenoble, the same venue where Jamaica went down to Brazil in their opening encounter. And Karen Madden is in France.
The odds are decidedly stacked against the Reggae Girls. They have conceded 8 goals, sit at the foot of Group C without a point, and are yet to find the back of the net. Despite those odds, however, head coach Hugh Menzies told Monday's pre-game press conference his players are determined to fight to the final whistle. According to Menzies, while the team has not lost sight of the tremendous achievement of playing on FIFA's big stage, they have other targets.
I mean, that's what we're here for. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, it's a mathematical deal that we have to get through, and, you know, some of the other groups, I haven't kept up with it yet, but, you know, I just go into games thinking that we need to get results. You know, especially if we play the way we're capable of playing, we should be able to get some results here. So I'm going in to qualify. I mean, I'm going in to win the game. I mean, that's why we're here.
And forward Shayna Matthews has Australian teammates on her Washington Spirit team. But the 25-year-old who made the Jamaica side 9 months after having her first child knows what's required to get a positive result.
I would say that everyone's hungry. I think a lot of people probably would have assumed that we'd hang our heads or obviously we are disappointed with the results that we've had and not obviously being able to put any away yet. But the vibe in the locker room is, I think we have a pinpoint focus now. Like Coach Hugh said in practice, we've been really focusing on finishing aspect, crosses and stuff like that. And we really want to put some away. So I think that's where our focus has shifted.
The Jamaica versus Australia game kicks off at 2 o'clock Tuesday afternoon Jamaica time. Reporting from the FIFA Women's World Cup in France, Karen Madden for TVJ Sports.
And led by a double strike from Diva Orgil, Jamaica's Reggae Boys got their CONCACAF Gold Cup campaign off to a winning start with a 3-2 victory over Honduras last night at the National Stadium. Orgil scored in the 15th and 41st minutes, while Damian Lowe got Jamaica's third in the 56th minute. Anthony Lozano and Robilio Castillo, in time added, scored for the Hondurans. The Reggae Boys will be back in action on Friday when they play El Salvador in the United States. In the other Group C game played at the National Stadium on Monday, El Salvador had a 1-0 win over Curaçao. Nelson Bonilla got the all-important goal of the strike of halftime. And that's the Midday News. I'm Herman Green. Please join us at 7 for the Primetime News Package. On behalf of the News, Sports and Production teams, good afternoon.